Ella had big plans for Malcolm to do well. And she wants more for Malcolm than what he wants for himself. She understands that he's been given a short hand, that he didn't have the mother and father watching out over him the way every child ought to.
She brought him to Boston to have like a better life. But when Malcolm first got to Boston, he's kind of like this country bumpkin who has been in a sheltered life, being exposed to this urban life. Jazz and swing and dancing and the nightclubs and the zoot suits, the fashion, the clothes, the women. He's completely drawn in. Eventually, Malcolm gets into what we would call the underground economy. Drugs, by his own account, pimping, stealing, burglary. Ella saw this firsthand, but as much as she was dismayed about the direction that he was going in, she never put him out. She never disposed of him. This was her brother. This was her little brother, and she loved him.
So when he was born, we expected great things of Malcolm. After my father's death and his mother's having gone to a hospital, I felt that it was my duty to let him feel that life was the life that God gave him belonged to him. He didn't have to pay homage to anyone. This is how I guided him.
She's constantly pushing for him to be the best version of himself. Ella is there to remind Malcolm of not just who he is, who their father was, what their legacy is, and that he ought to be making better decisions for himself.
But her guidance can't save him from himself. At only 20, he's arrested for a robbery spree and sentenced to 8 to 10 years.
It would be hard for anyone who's just an older sibling to stay with someone when they are that committed to being the worst version of themselves. And that's the part where I think you really can see that the connection is there, but there's something bigger than the connection is based on love, because she doesn't give up on him.
In prison, I was able to really direct him into accepting facts as a guideline to life. Malcolm was able to see this and accept life from a realistic point of view. I think all of the illusions that he may have adopted in his youth from environment, I think he lost it in prison.
When Malcolm was in prison, Ella didn't abandon him. She visited him regularly. In fact, Ella helped advocate for Malcolm to be moved to the Norfolk prison colony, which had the huge library that would become so consequential to his self-education. Ella was someone who had that deep love for and belief in his possibility. Those bars did not remove his humanity or their relationship that was so important to his development. And I think Malcolm knew that Ella was always there and always going to be there, and she was.
While in prison, Malcolm's older brothers introduce him to the Nation of Islam and to its leader, Elijah Muhammad. Ella's not a member, but she has known Elijah Muhammad since childhood, when their families lived in the same small corner of Georgia.
Elijah Muhammad gave him a chance to excel. Had not it been for Elijah Muhammad, I would have had to find possibly another field to project him through. But Islam gave Malcolm a chance to really excel and build the Nation of Islam. Much of the Nation of Islam is Malcolm.
It gives me great pleasure and an honor and a privilege at this time to introduce to you and present to you the messenger of Allah, your and my beloved leader and teacher, the most honorable and humble Elijah Muhammad.
I heard him speak for the first time in the summer of 1962 and became an instant supporter wherever he spoke in the New York area. I would go, and if he mentioned a book, I would try to find the book and read it, because I'd never heard anyone talk about race and white supremacy in this country the way he did. He was the first person in my life that I heard talk extensively about psychological warfare, a war on the mind.
I've interviewed so many African-American Muslims who came into Islam through the Nation of Islam in the early 50s. And when I asked them, that seminal question, why did you join? They credit Malcolm, but they're not just crediting Malcolm as a person. Yes, they were in love with Malcolm. I mean, it's a love story all around. There's no shortage of love, but they're crediting what Malcolm awakened in them. So they're saying, you know what? Malcolm came in there and he told us to love ourselves.
I began to think back growing up in Tuskegee, Alabama, and Tuskegee was about 90% black at that time. So I hardly ever saw white people, except when we go downtown to go to the movies. Every Saturday, we'd be in there like from about 10 in the morning until about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And they showed a lot of Tarzan movies. And a theater full of black kids would be sitting there cheering for Tarzan and Cheetah and laughing at the Africans and regarding them as stupid, so we would laugh at them and call them dumb. I mean, when I was growing up in Tuskegee, you could call somebody a no good, you know what, a low down, you know what, an ugly, you know what, a dirty, you know what. But if you call them an African or a black, you know what, you will fight. Now with the other names, you may fight. You call them black or African, you will be fighting, because those are considered, like a curse word to call somebody African or black.
The Nation of Islam gave him a chance to recognize the lack of knowledge the masses contain.
Brother Malcolm was the one, more than anyone else, I think, who got a whole lot of us out of that realm.
This clip is from our latest PBS film, Islam's Greatest Stories of Love, premiering August 22nd, 2025. Check the description for details, and please subscribe to help us bring more stories like this to life.